Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the topic of hurting.
Representative Carrick.
Madam Speaker, we hear a phrase a lot, that a strong private sector supports the public sector. But the reverse is also true. I want to consider how our public sector is doing today. There was an article in the Anchorage Daily News yesterday that said that high job vacancies in Alaska reduce services and lead to burnout. Our statewide vacancy rate is 14%, but per a report from Leg Finance last year, we have higher vacancy rates in certain divisions and departments. Public health nurses have a 39.9% vacancy rates, and other areas have alarmingly high rates as well. These include our PFD technicians with a 25% vacancy rate, our child support specialists at 26.8% vacancy rates. Juvenile justice officers are at a 20.8% vacancy rate. Social services associates, these are people that process SNAP applications and work in our Division of Public Assistance, an 18% vacancy rate. Occupational license examiners are at a 19% vacancy rate, and human resource technicians, the people that process our payroll, are at a 20% vacancy rate. So what does this look like in practice? Madam Speaker, over this last year in office, serving has been the honor of my life. But I have heard from constituents in my district and in my region, and I have some real-life examples of what happens with these types of vacancy rates. I have a constituent who owns a heating service and installs residential and commercial heating systems. He had to wait 6 months to get the necessary licenses to run his business, and only received help after contacting his legislator's office. In those 6 months, this Alaskan waited, and he was hurting, personally and professionally. The constituents and employees working at the Fairbanks International Airport waited many, many months to receive the same mission-critical incentive pay that Anchorage Airport employees were receiving. These folks are out on the tarmac every day. Today in Fairbanks, it is 48 below zero. But these individuals keep private airline industry running. They keep folks going from place to place and make our travel experience as smooth as possible. Some are still waiting for this mission-critical incentive pay. They are hurting. The wildland firefighters in Fairbanks, who are on the front lines every day during our wildfire season, a fire season that is only getting longer and longer year after year. They don't have an adequate training facility in Fairbanks, and the work they do is dangerous. We had individuals perish this last year in this line of work, and they work dangerous amounts of overtime around our state. They put their lives on the line for us to keep our communities and our homes and our recreational cabins and everything we have safe. And they make minimum pay. They are hurting. I have a constituent who owns something as simple as a porta potty company. He had to wait more than a month just to get his address fixed on his business license so that he could do his work. He was only able to get that help after contacting our offices. During that time, that month of waiting to change something as simple as his address on his business license, he was hurting. The number of nurses throughout my region who have waited months upon months to get licenses with no response from the department, no feedback. They can't get to work. They can't do the work that feeds their own families in this important helping profession with critical vacancy rates. They are hurting. My office has received literally dozens of constituent cases about professional and business licensing, people looking to be employed in the private sector in Alaska. They are hurting while they wait. And the constituents who have reached out to my office and don't know where their next meal is going to come from because they are waiting and have not received their SNAP benefits with backlog and then subsequent backlog. These Alaskans are hurting. And further, the person who processes those SNAP applications is hurting. These individuals barely make a living wage, and they have to do the work of several people because of employee vacancies in the Division of Public Assistance. Meanwhile, their counterparts can work at McDonald's or Walmart in the private sector and make as much or more than they make and not have to be on the front lines of such life and death decisions. These individuals are hurting. And finally, Madam Speaker, we get to people working in the PFD division. Every year, each one of our offices gets inundated with PFD constituent casework. We help Alaskans get their dividend check each year. As of last year, as I mentioned, there's a vacancy rate in the PFD division of over 25%. This means that those Alaskans who rely on that dividend check to make ends meet, the people that we constantly talk about in this body, if they have an issue with their application, they can't get that resolved, and often it takes months. Our constituents are hurting, and Alaskans are hurting. Madam Speaker, these issues are complex, and they're long-standing. Not one person here in this body created those problems by themselves, or in the other body, or even in the administration. We are all incumbents now. Even the 17 freshmen in this body who were recently elected last year are now incumbents. It is our responsibility to do something about this. We didn't create the problem, but now that we are incumbents, it is incumbent on every single one of us to fix this problem. And as we look at the budget starting next week and other opportunities to help Alaskans, I implore all of us to remember Alaskans are hurting. Thank you, Madam Speaker.